Hello, my name is Mykle McCoslin, and I am the president and national board member for the Houston-Austin SAG-AFTRA local. A couple of weeks ago, our good friend Gary reached out to me and asked if I would come there with you guys to talk about our strike that's happening with SAG-AFTRA. And I unfortunately wasn't able to be there in person with you all today because I'm actually here in Los Angeles striking with our brothers and sisters, the Teamsters, and the Writers Guild members here in Los Angeles. Actually about to go today and strike just down the street on Sunset Boulevard at one of the big studios that I will not name, but was very honored and humbled to be able to communicate and share with you all what we are dealing with as being actors in this time and age. We just got done with COVID, it seemed, back in 2020, and where the industry was shut down then because of health reasons, of course. But now we find ourselves riding the wave again with the strike. And our union doesn't take strikes lightly, because what happens when there is a call to strike, our workers don't work and thus aren't able to provide food for our families and as we normally do. So it's nothing that the industry takes lightly. The national board called the strike authorization in July, because after 6 weeks of negotiations with the AMPTP, which is the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, what we brought to the table to the producers was pretty much laughed at. And what we're seeking by calling this strike is fair wages, because our industry has shifted with the introduction of streaming, videos on demand, being able to watch films and television shows on airlines. Whereas before, we just watched things at home. It was a Tuesday, Thursday night lineup. And back in I think it was 2019, I came to Los Angeles to attend our last actually in-person national convention for SAG-AFTRA, because we haven't had one in person since, COVID. But I remember at that event, our executive chief officer announced that in 5 years, our industry as we know it would be changing. And, you hear those words and you're like, oh yeah, you see it down the line. But David White at the time, he said that our industry was going to be changing, that everything that we consumed as consumers, television series, films, documentaries, was going to be now online. And it was shocking, but he could see and foretell the future of, yes, we consume media differently than we did 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. So the models that we had in place for our residuals, because an actor works on a TV series or film, they get their day rate, sometimes they get their weekly rates when they are guest stars, co-stars, principal actors on television series. And then once the show aired or would air on a television or a theater platform, we would get something called residuals, which in the industry, actors love residuals, and we make a living off of residuals, because it is the money that we earn once the film is out publicly. And it's based on cycles, and you get a check every so often, which keeps you afloat as a working actor during times when you're not working. Well, when this new platform changed and everything's now on streaming platforms, the same agreements that we had with the producers haven't translated on this new market. We kind of gave leverage over to the producers. We didn't realize that everything would be switching to this new platform. And now that it has, SAG-AFTRA, as well as the writers, are in negotiations in their own contracts are asking for us to be fairly compensated as we were in those older agreements. the conglomerates of the big markets, the big streamer platforms that you probably all subscribe to, currently, right now, they are making more money than I know how to comprehend in my head. I've heard the word billions, I've heard the word trillions, and I can't wrap that amount of money around my head. But yes, they are making trillions of dollars from our hard work. And our hard work as actors isn't just the work that you see when you watch a television series or a feature film. When it's all shiny, when it's all beautiful, when we have all hair and makeup perfectly, perfectly done. It is the work that we do to get to that point, the cherry on top of the cake, or the cupcake in my favor. I like cupcakes. It is the work. It is the classes that we've taken. It is the memorization that we've done. It is the thousands of self-tapes that we have taped on our own, especially now after COVID, where actors have had to become, hair and makeup. Not only do we memorize lines, but we're now having to edit our videos, our auditions to send out. We're acting as the role of editors, cinematographers, DPs, lighting, you name it. And so what we're having to do now goes way beyond what you guys see when you see the finished product. It is the colleges, the acting studios, we've tried, the car, our driving to and from auditions. It's all of that back work to becoming a professional actor, that when you finally get that part, it's the shiny, So what we're asking for is to be compensated fairly so that we can live and provide for our families, just like you all. But at this point in our time, actors, and when I say actors, I mean working actors, not the 1% of actors, celebrities, that the star names that we all know and love and rever. It is the actors like myself, the working actors. I also coach acting. Where we have to take 2 and 3, 4, sometimes 5, 6, however many jobs to just provide a living wage. And the producers do not want to pay, not all, but the big conglomerates that we are in negotiations with do not want to cut the pie evenly. What we're asking in these new negotiations was for 2% of the profits that they're making out of this whole entire pie. It is our hard work that contributes to what they're making money off of, profiting from our hard work, and they are not willing to pay. And so when we went fairly to negotiate and to put the negotiations on the table, they laughed at us. They laughed at the negotiating committee of what we were asking for. Because during COVID, what happened was no one was going to see films in the theater. We were all at home and we were all watching their content. I mean, my daughter, my family, all of us were at home watching all the streaming platforms. And so the revenue that they were getting is astronomical, where we don't even know, we can't even calculate how much they are making. So there's no fairness. There's no, I guess you could say, numbers that we can physically see and say, okay, well, this TV series is making X amount of dollars, so these actors on this television series should get that amount of money. We're getting residuals that equal 1 cent, 34 cents, not even the amount of a postage stamp. And it's ridiculous. It's like a joke. Who can live off that kind of money? It's great when you make the day rate or the weekly rate, but then what we want is the residuals income. Another thing that we're facing right now is the introduction of AI. And we see it in our grocery stores, we see Amazon and in stores. AI is basically, we see it in video gaming, but what we're negotiating with the AI aspect of these negotiations is they are wanting to use the voice, the likeness of actors pretty much in perpetuity. Means they can own your image, your likeness, your voice, and use it in feature films or whatever new gaming or whatever new platform is created 5, 10 years, 20 years from now, and not compensate us fairly for that, which is not okay. background performers are signing over contracts that say they will do this rate, they will make 100, 125 a day, whatever the amount that they're getting paid to be a background performer, which again, background performers are SAG-AFTRA members and are covered under our contracts. They want to be able to use the image of an actor, their likeness, in whatever way that they can use it, and only compensate them for that one time where they're cast. And that is not acceptable, because what they're projecting in the future is that society will be able to say, I want to watch Meryl Streep and Dennis Quaid in a movie that's, taking over dinosaurs in the world, and they'll be able to type it in, and there will be the images of those actors or those stars in 5, 10, 20 years from now, and be able to create a video content, whether it's film, television, internet, and not have to compensate those original actors that their image was stolen, and pretty much. And so when we went to negotiations, we asked for fair compensation for AI rights. And again, they didn't want to budge and give us those fair, what we asked for. And so that was another reason why we called for the strike authorization. The union is very savvy, and we have lawyers that we pay for that negotiate our contracts, along with fellow actors on the negotiating committee. And what we've created is an interim agreement. It is basically an agreement that any independent producer can currently, while we are on strike, sign up for and use, so that they can be able to continue to make television series. I'll give an example. The Chosen, in an independent produced television series that a lot of you, I hope, have seen. It's a wonderful show. They have been able to acquire an interim agreement and continue filming that television series, which used to film in Texas. It's now currently filming in Utah, but that's a whole different conversation about our incentives and our grant programs here in Texas. But that program was able to qualify for an interim agreement. Now, what that agreement is basically everything that SAG-AFTRA presented to the AMPTP of what we wanted to see in these new contracts that they said no to. The producers, for example, of this television series, The Chosen, agreed to our terms, all of them. And thus, they are able to continue during the strike authorization period, where actors are not working in film and television, commercials, yes, voiceover, yes. They were able to continue and work on their television series while the strike is happening. Now, along with a lot of other independent films that are happening around us in Oklahoma, Louisiana, and Texas. So what the union is doing is they are using this as leverage, so that when the AMPTP comes back to the table, because we are, SAG-AFTRA is open and ready to negotiate fairly. It is the AMPTP that don't want to come back to the table right now. They have hired firms for risk management and their image, and they're too busy trying to make themselves look good instead of coming back to the table. So what will happen when the AMPTP decides to come back to the table is we will have these interim agreements. We will have these producers, independent producers, who are agreeing to our terms. So it only makes us look stronger. And like, if they're doing it, why can't you? So I think it's a very smart and a very savvy thing for our union to be doing. I'm very proud of that. What will happen when the AMPTP decides to come back to the table and negotiate with us, whatever negotiation we jointly agree to at that time, it will supersede what the current interim agreement holds. So those producers that have that interim agreement will continue to film, but with the new agreements in place. So I know this is a lot of terminology, and I just wanted to share it with you all, what we're doing internally with the union, so that we can get back to work. because basically, you know, we find ourselves on the eve of Labor Day tomorrow. And labor is all about workers. It's all about standing up. It's all about making sure that those in our industries, whether it's the plumbing industry, teaching industry, firefighters, actors, that we stand together for certain terms that people can't just run over, bulldoze over. SAG was created almost 90 years ago, just down the street from where I'm at currently. There were actors that were working for the studios at the time, and where there was no laws set guidelines in place. And so the studios were having actors work as long as they wanted. And tired actors not able to go home. And so they band together. Mary Pickford was one of those actors I'm so proud of and admire, who stood together and said, no, we're creating a union so that we can dictate the terms that we work for. And that is the way that the Screen Actors Guild was created. And then a couple of years later, the AFTRA, the film and television side, and back in 2013, that union joined together to form the union that we have now, SAG and AFTRA. And, you know, we continue that legacy, what they started back in the 30s. And, you know, I share with my brothers and sisters there at the Houston-Austin local that although it might be hard right now, you know, we're not able to work in those, the big markets, television and film, and money is tight. But what we're doing today by standing strong is not only going to help us in the long run, it's going to help those members that haven't even been born yet. And so for me, that makes me proud and makes me feel like one day in 90 years from now, someone will be talking about the work that I and my fellow brothers and sisters all around, you know, America and the world pretty much are doing to stand together during this pivotal time to stop corporate greed, to make sure that art at the end of the day supersedes and wins over content, because we as actors aren't just in this business to help conglomerates make money. We are in this business because we've been given I want to say a divine calling to pursue this career, so that we are able to share our art, because art is, at the end of the day, what heals the world, what brings us together, and what changes people's lives and inspires them the most, in my opinion. So I hope that I have been able to illuminate a little bit about the plight that we are now on as actors in this day and age. And because the world is changing, and it seems like there is a disassociation between what the true message of art really means in life. It's not about the money. It's not about corporate greed. It's about using the gifts that we've been given to better the world. And so I personally am very proud to be an actor and proud to be standing with my brothers and sisters in this charge that we find ourselves in at this moment in time. So I hope that you will all keep us in your prayers and in your thoughts. And remember, at the end of the day, that an actor is not just the star names that you know. A working actor, in my opinion, are the ones that, no matter what, keep moving forward and never give up. So I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day today and an enjoyable Labor Day weekend with your family and friends. Much love and appreciation. God bless. Thank you.